Matthew 5:41. The cowboy went to church one day, and as he entered the building, he was the only one there. The preacher got up and preached for 2.5 hours. When he got through, he asked the cowboy what he thought about the sermon. He said, well, when I only have one cow come up to the barn, I just give him what he needs to eat. I don't give him the whole bale of hay. This morning, I'll make a deal with you. I'll just give you a sample of what we're going to do this week if you'll make me one promise. And that is, I need 100% on this, that you'll try to be to every possible service of the church this week. I need a show of hands. Otherwise, you're going to get the whole bale this morning. That's not enough. We need to do that. How many will try to be here every service? I didn't say you be here, try to be here. I think we're getting 100%. I appreciate that. I know you didn't want to stay through lunch. Matthew chapter 5:41 is a very interesting passage. For whoever forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. This is one of the Sermon on the Mount passages that gives us some nuggets of truth in regard to how we're to live in the kingdom. It's very interesting. The Sermon on the Mount, of course, has been read verses 1 through 5, or 1 through 10 in Matthew chapter 5. Starts out with being poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. It goes from the poor in spirit all the way down to the persecuted in verse 10, and everything in between. That if we'll apply, we will be the type of people that the Lord would have us be. If you look at chapter 5, also at verse 19, we'll look at a couple of places here before we get to our text. Verse 19 says, Matthew 5:19, whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do so, the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's what this lesson is about. To get us to see the joyful living, the advantages of being a Christian, the abundant living that is taught in the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 5 through 7 is the Sermon on the Mount. Records it. And what we need to do is ingest, we need to include in our life these principles of sharing, abundant living, advantages given to others, evangelism, all of these wrapped up in one, so that we can be the type of people God would have us to be. It's sad that so many people miss it. Look at chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. Chapter 7, verse 13. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter there through it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. We want to be those, every one of us here, who are able to enter the kingdom of heaven when this life comes to a close. Now, in order to be able to accomplish that, we have to understand this passage in Matthew chapter 5, verse 41. It's one of those passages that will help us to be able to see. And what we need to see in connection with the passage is this. We have to understand the background of it, I guess you'd say. What in the world is he talking about? Well, it was a 41, whoever forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. The first part of that was the law of the Romans. If a Roman official came up to you and said, you're going with me, you're going to carry my load, you're going to carry my package, you're going to carry my backpack for 1 mile. You're subjugated people. You're responsible. We expect something out of you. We've taken you into captivity. And so you're going to work for us. Well, that'd be nice. Wouldn't have someone slave for you? Just do what you're doing. Well, the Roman officials did not like that. I mean, the Jewish officials did not like that. The rulers, synagogue, they made them walk through under a yoke. Coming into the gate of the city, before all the people, they had to humble themselves and walk meekly and humbly under the yoke of the Romans, to show to the Romans that they were in subjection to them. Oh, man, you can imagine. I can just imagine those stubborn Jews already shaking their fists as they walked under that yoke. And that was part of the law. The Roman law. The Romans had borrowed it from the Medes and the Persians, and they liked that law. Boy, we're going to adapt that law because we're going to make these Jews suffer. And so they carried down to the rest of the citizenry. If a farmer was in the field and he was plowing, he had a half a day's work left. He had to get the seed in the ground. It was going to rain that night. He needed to get the seed in the ground. Here comes a soldier by and says, "Farmer, come with me. The law requires you to go a mile with me and carry my backpack." You can just imagine him taking the backpack and kicking it down the road. Kicking it down the road. It wasn't fit for anything once he got it down there. Their disposition was, we hate these Romans. And the Romans' disposition was, these people are subjected to us. We rule them. We conquer them, we rule them. And there might be a shepherd boy in the field taking care of the sheep. And a soldier or a Roman official of some kind comes by and says, "Come on, shepherd boy, leave your sheep right where they are. All my sheep will get away. You leave them right where you are, right where they are. Come with me. I've got a job for you, and you're going to go a mile with me." That was the law. Well, that's all he had to do. And you can imagine that boy grimacing and shaking his head, aggravated, because they hated that law. The Jews hated that law. And then you might have a stagecoach system worked the same way. They had stagecoaches, mail service, and the mail service carried the mail to a particular location, stagecoach-wise, similar, and there would be food and fodder and water for the horses and fresh horses. And so when the stagecoach driver got to a particular location, no food, maybe, no fresh horses, no water for the horses. He'd walk up to the nearest neighbor and say, "My horses need food. Provide food for my horses." Oh, man, the Jews hated that. Man, we got to have food for our horses. We need some water for our horses. And as a matter of fact, we need some food for our men. Miss Jewish lady, prepare the food for our... Oh, they hated that. I see why the Romans liked it, because, man, they got anything they wanted that way. Subjugated people. But my point in all of that is that that's not the way it was supposed to be. Look at the verse again in verse 41. Jesus adds to the Roman law. And what does he say? "Whoever forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. See Jesus' law? First part of the law was the Roman law. Second part of the law was the Lord's law. Now, you think about that for just a minute. Because what you're going to be able to find from that is that the disciples had a new disposition here. And they were to practice something new. And the people who followed it, didn't follow it, were poor spiritually if they missed this Matthew 5:41 lesson. Now, the Jewish rulers, Jewish people, they missed it. Who was to get it? The disciples were to get it. That's what the Sermon on the Mount is all about. Getting them to lead an advantaged life. Getting them to live a happy life. Getting them to live a spiritual life. Getting them to follow the teachings that they had been taught all their lives as Jews. To be godly. And that, if they miss that, if they miss this little verse, this is half of this little verse, they missed everything that there is. Of course, these were kingdom pointers, so these were for the disciples. The disciples were to get this as well. And they were to be the type of people that would always want to do what the Lord wanted them to do. So the Jews that were being converted to Christ, that were understanding what Christ had to say, were the ones now that were getting the message. They were the ones that had not missed the message. They were the ones that recognized who Christ was. And that in just a few years, the church would be established, be in existence, just 30 years from then. The kingdom would come, church would be in existence, gospel would be preached, And men everywhere, all nations, would have an opportunity to become Christians and added to the Lord's church. But those Jews who got it were men who recognized the Sermon on the Mount, and they were joyous about what they had learned and had been taught. Now, think about it. Walking up to a Roman official, walking up to a disciple of Christ. Someone heard Christ preach, believe what he had to say, believe the kingdom's coming. He believes that you're going to be happier if you serve the Romans. And so he walks up to one who's heard Christ preach. Maybe a farmer in the field. He has a half day's work left to do. It's going to rain that night. He needs a seed in the ground. And a Roman official says, "Sir, you're subjugated people. Come with me a mile." Well, man, he said, "Let's go. Let's go." And he begins to walk and carry the baggage properly. Talk to him courteously. Praise him for being such a good soldier. Say, "Did you hear Jesus preach? Have you heard the Lord speak? Did you hear the Sermon on the Mount?" And when you get to the end of the mile, that was the mile marker. As far as I had to go. The one farmer who had heard Christ preach and believed what he had to say said, "Let's go another mile. I'll go with you another mile. Matter of fact, I'll walk with you all day long if you want me to." And while he's walking, he's talking to him about Jesus. "Did you see the miracle? Healing the blind man. Did you see him healing the leper?" Judas thought, boy, if you can heal the blind man, heal the leper, and raise the dead, you've done it all. You have to be the Son of God. That was the three things. The big three biggies were them. Now, the reason the apostles were able to convert so many people, so many of the Jews, was that was the three biggies. They were able to see that and understand that no man can do that except to be of God. Jesus has to be God. And then picture the shepherd boy who normally be kicking rocks down the road. And the soldier comes up and says, "Son, come with me. Leave your sheep right here. Come with me." And the boy said, "Boy, I'll be glad you're singing 'Jesus Loves Me' all the way down the road." And he said, do you have any children? Do you have any children? How old are your children? You got any children my age? I'd like you to come to Bible study with us. I'd like to meet your children. And then the postal worker walks up to the neighbor when he runs out of food and water and fresh horses and says, "Sir, I need some fresh horses." "Oh, I need my horses." The Jewish man says, "I need my horses tomorrow." And the man who heard Christ preach says, "How many horses do you want? I'll give you all my horses if you need them. Matter of fact, I'll drive the team if you want me to. How about coming, your wife and kids coming over for supper? You know, you eat supper with them. Why don't you bring your family over for supper tomorrow night?" You see the difference? A person is poor in heart if he misses that point. But then secondly, I want to suggest to you is that you always have a good feeling within when you do something good for another individual. Have you ever taught anyone the laws? You have a good feeling. Whether you converted them or not, you have a good feeling within. It's a good feeling. That feeling never goes away if you live to be as old as I am. That feeling will never go away. And it's important. My mom, when I was a child, made us go out into the garden and work. 7 of us children, and she made us to go out and work, all of us. If one went, everybody had to go. Well, I hated it. I'd kick the clods and just have fool around. But when she got older and she did her garden, I rather enjoyed it. I'd go out and enjoy working in the garden with her. Well, what is the difference? Perspective is the difference. You'll always have a good feeling within when you do the Lord's work. You'll always have a good feeling within when you seek to do what the Lord has you to do. And it's important to recognize that that concept. In evangelism, in the work of the church, anything that you do spiritually, you have that concept. You'll be of good benefit. I think of a third thing that we need to recognize in connection with this lesson as well. Service brings out the best in people. It brought out the best in the Jews. They had heard Jesus preach. They knew Christianity was coming into existence. They knew that Jesus was the Son of God. It brought out good things in the Jews. Set the church up for a great 3,000 to be saved on the day of Pentecost. Why? Jesus had melted their hearts. And I remember a story that I heard one time of a group of elders that wanted to build a new church building. Lock and key jobs. Money on the table. So they went to all the members. And they said, you know, we want to build a new building and we want it to be paid for when we get it built. And they went to this one lady and she said, well, I can't give anything extra. And they said, well, why? I said, well, I only make $200 one week and $300 the next week. And I don't have any extra money. I'm strapped for money as it is. They said, well, we don't want your money if you don't have any extra money. That's all understood. About a week later, she came to the elders and said, I've got some money for the new building. They said, well, we thought you didn't have any money. She said, well, I ride a taxi to work, and I can walk. As a matter of fact, I ride a taxi to get to the church building, and I can do that too. I can walk. And I've got some extra money. Well, of course, when the members heard about that, they didn't have any trouble getting money for a lock and key job for a new church building, because everybody dug down then and gave from the bottom of their heart. And not only that, the woman never had to walk to church. Someone came and picked her up. She never had to walk to work. Someone got her to work. But I mean, service brings out the best in people. And her motivation, negative motivation, caused the church to be strong and to help her as well as she needed help. And so we can lift the burdens. In Texas, there's a lot of people lifting the burdens of those in flood areas. Hundreds, thousands of dollars are pouring into the Houston, Texas area because it's trying to lift the burdens of many, many hundreds of families that went under during the flood. And that's a wonderful thing to see. Yesterday I got 2 phone calls just for people trying to send money to our congregation, who 35 people went underwater to some degree or the other. And that's a great thing to be able to see the church working in a fashion like that. Of course, we know benevolence starts at home first. Individuals do all they can do to help their family members. And then the church kicks in, the local congregation kicks in and does all it can to help the local members. But then when that expires, then the brotherhood kicks in and does all that it can to help those who are in need as well. Now, we need to recognize that the Lord has gone the extra mile for us. So that's the next one. Well, He lifts the burdens of weary people, and God went the second mile for us. And we need to realize that He went to the cross. We were in sin, separated from God, and Jesus recognized it. He went to the cross that you and I may have the opportunity to go to heaven when this life comes to a close. It's a wonderful thing. Now, let me give application to the lesson of yours. What about us today? We need to recognize that we can develop the right attitude toward the Lord by the Sermon on the Mount. We can go the extra mile. We're not under that Roman law. I'm glad we're not. We're not subjugated yet. You hear I say yet. You probably preach like that some too. Because we could be a subjugated people at any time. We still wave our flag. There may be a day when we can't raise our flag. We have to raise someone else's flag. But my point is, our attitude is such that whatever flag we live under, we will be a Christian. That's what we can learn from this lesson. So don't miss the gospel meeting this week. You ask people, have you ever attended the service of the Church of Christ? Would you attend a service with me tonight? And there's a man that's come to town, I believe he's going to preach. And I believe he's going to have something to say. And I believe it'll help you as well as me. And so get busy this week, if you will. Now, I got 100% coming, so that's going to be it. We get everybody bring one. We'll have to get some chairs out around here. So I'm looking forward to the night and the rest of the week, because I believe you'll be benefited by being here with the church. So my point on all of that is to get you to be able to see some things that will be of great benefit to you. I hope that you will set some studies up for me to teach. Many of you are sons and daughters in the faith that I've taught and baptized. Not many of you, but some of them. Your parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles I've taught and baptized. Mark's uncle, I worked for at Ford for a while. Couldn't get him to go to church. Couldn't get him to go to church, saved my life. I couldn't get him. One Saturday, he put me on a job that was the hardest one in the plant. Out of my classification. I didn't have to do it. I could have called the union, and the union would have said, this man does not do that job. I didn't do that. I wish I had him at the end of the day, but I could hardly walk out of the plant. I guess he was trying to see what I made out of it. Aaron Beard. I've invited him for a year to come to church. I said, I'm going to do that job. Man, I was sore. And we finished 45 minutes ahead of schedule, which was very unusual on a production line. I said to Aaron, could barely talk, much less walk. I said, I'd like you to come to church tomorrow. He didn't say anything, as you usually did. The next morning, him and his wife were at the service. They were restored, as I recall. I don't remember having baptized, but they were restored. And attended the Esco congregation for years after that. I remember Brenda's daddy. I had a study set with him in a snowstorm. You know, you can have pretty good snowstorms around here. And I couldn't even get out of my driveway. I didn't think. Snow plowed coming, plowed the snow up. I'd already shoveled it out, and there it was out of high again. I said, man, I got to study Mr. Bolden. I don't believe he's going to be interested, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to get there if I can. So I finally shoveled myself back out of the driveway and got behind a snow plow. Headed for Blackoak. Right behind that snow plow. The Lord providentially helped me that night. And when I got there, Mr. Bolden was sitting there with his Bible open and his book open and his lesson worked out. I said, man, this is a glorious day. I think I baptized him the next day. But my point on all of that is we need to be going the second mile. It's been easy for me to say, well, I can't get out of my driveway. Go the second mile. Do what's necessary to influence people for the cause of Jesus Christ our Lord. Well, I haven't said anything about the plan of salvation, but I'm going to. If you're in this audience and you're not a Christian, learn this lesson from Matthew 5:41. Jesus went the extra mile for us. We need to go the extra mile for him. He did it for us. We're not doing it for him. We're doing it for ourselves. That's what he died for. And if you're in the audience, you've never been baptized into Christ, let me urge you to do that. Now, if you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, you're willing to turn from the sins of this world that you're involved in, that's repentance. Acknowledge his faith, the faith in Jesus as the Son of God. Even the devout Jews couldn't deny that. They became Christians. You're not a Jew, you're a Gentile, but you can become a Christian. And if you go to the water with me in baptism, I'll baptize you for the remission of your sins. You can be added to the church in a saved relationship with the Lord, in a relationship provided for you to go to heaven when this life comes to a close. If you've erred as a Christian, you haven't lived as the Lord would have you to live, I'd urge you to come to the front right now. Let us pray with you and for you that you may be restored. The Lord's promised to do that.